Hello and welcome to my presentation. I am Thaddeus, a psychology student at the University of Bolton Rasakema. I chose to do psychology to get an in-depth understanding of human behavior and mental processes, especially for children. As I grew up, I realized that I had an inherent interest in listening to people's problems and getting ways of helping them overcome those problems. For this reason, I enrolled for a Bachelor's of Science in Psychology to get acquainted with foundational psychological theories and practices, human behavior, mental health conditions, and cognitive processes. To further acquire more knowledge and experience in the field of psychology, I took several CPD courses and attended several seminars. I later applied for internships and got an opportunity to work at Widad Center. Widad Center is a special needs education center that provides occupational speech and language therapy, as well as learning support to children with special needs ranging from 4 to 18 years old. Widad Center is an academic institution situated in the heart of Dubai at Al Satwa. It was founded in the year 2013. The current staff size at Widad is 30 members, among whom are special needs education teachers, therapists, and psychologists that work together to provide specialized individual education plan to the children, administer several therapies including language and speech therapy, occupational therapy, behavior modification, and other support to the children and the families they come from. The center cohesively works under the managing director, Ms. Emma Fell, who applies human relations theory in her leadership by offering motivation, encouragement, and any necessary form of support to the team as described by Hosni 2019. Her leadership skills make Widad Center a place where teamwork, coordination, and cooperation of all individuals is highly valued. Widad is an independent institution, but with a growing potential. The center is a homely haven where children are handled skillfully by professionals to develop their creativity, responsibility, and independence, with the understanding that every child is unique and requires individual learning needs. Widad Center fills this gap by providing this essential service. During this internship at Widad, my external supervisor assigned me to Raccoon's class, a class of 8 children ranging from 8 to 11 years old. My role at this class was to give support to a special education teacher and a behavior therapist. A week later, I was assigned to provide learning support to 3 children in the class. This was a learning opportunity for me. I took my time to review the 3 students' diagnostic results and identified their learning weaknesses to devise the best way of intervention. One of these children had been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, while the rest 2 had only autism spectrum disorder. At the beginning of my internship, I identified some professional deficiencies that I needed to improve in, namely communication skills, which I had struggled with for some time, develop patience since I had always had an urge to get instant results. Consequently, Since I was going to venture into a new field of therapy, I made it a priority to boost up my confidence. Specifically, the three objectives I aimed at achieving within the period of my internship include: develop good communication skills, especially with students with complex needs, namely autism and ADHD. Two, to develop patience in preparing and delivering individual education planning to the students with diverse learning difficulties. And three, to develop confidence as I engage in therapy sessions with children, families, and groups. I was at first taken aback at the inactivity of the children, who seemed to be withdrawn from any form of activity and only agitated, made noises of aggression, or acted excessively excited. The children had minimal language skills, especially interactional and conversational. The children hardly understood body language, facial expressions, and meaning of different vocal tones. This situation prompted me to make my priority objective to be development of good communication with these children. To overcome this communication challenge, I decided to develop several life skill lessons that encouraged communication and interaction through imitation, body movement, eye contact, babbling, and other vocalizations to help the children communicate. These interventions, together with positive reinforcements, would spur improvement in the students' language skills, as suggested by Wilson et al. 2003. Another mode of communication that became helpful to me with the children, especially in emotional regulation, was augmentative and alternative communication by Romsky et al. 2010. Since previously the children had only been drilled in spoken speech, which did not work well. Another strategy that I used was the Denver model by Rogers et al. 2000, which is an evidence-based comprehensive therapy that helps autistic children to develop social communication skills, play skills, and language skills through everyday activities. One of the children under my care could neither associate with his peers whatsoever, nor initiate a talk even when in need. I modeled play-based activities such as competitive matching of objects in pairs, identifying and naming things in groups, body percussions, and passing a jingle bell. These activities helped the boy so much. Within few days, his countenance changed. He could afford to smile and initiate communications whenever he was in need. This case helped me to understand how psychological interventions can be so helpful to individuals struggling with various disorders. My second objective was to develop patience in delivering IEP to the children. The first week was tough for me since the children kept showing aggression towards me, making weird noises and throwing tantrums. There is a day that there was hardly any learning in the class. I decided to read about best learning theories and eventually decided to use behavioral learning theory. Behavioral theory is a concept that focuses on how students learn through interactions with the environment where they live. An example is positive reinforcement in Pavlov's experiment with dogs, where a bell would be rung before giving the dogs food until the dogs associated the bell with food. Eventually, every time the bell rings, the dogs would salivate, expecting to be fed even before they see food. In a classroom setting, students get rewarded when they display good behavior, which makes them to work hard to get rewarded in future. While using this theory, I encourage the children to make trials during the lesson and reinforced any slight positive behavior executed by the children and taught them how to react to certain stimuli. While using, I introduced positive reinforcement such as sticker for every positive behavior and a golden sticker for the best behaved overall at the end of the day. This strategy saw children to behave well most of the time and strive to restrain themselves to receive the golden star as they go home. After a few days, I introduced negative reinforcements such as removing red and yellow stickers when a positive behavior is achieved. Towards the end of my internship, the children were fond of me and were ready to learn on. I proudly achieved this objective, judging from the state of the children at the beginning and at the end of my internship. My third objective was to develop self-confidence. I used social cognitive theory, which posits that human functionality results from interactions among behavioral, environmental, and personal factors, since performance capacity is self-influenced, as illustrated by Bandura 1997. This theory helped me particularly with one child diagnosed with ADHD. He would shout uncontrollably and become aggressive with everyone. All learners and teachers feared him and freaked out whenever he acted in an aggressive way. By developing both self-efficacy and self-esteem, I was able to handle the boy and started assisting him implement deep breathings, yoga, and muscle relaxation whenever he was upset. With consistency, the violent nature of the child began to subside, and although he could not overcome these emotions completely, there were slight improvements. According to my assessment, the three objectives were met, which was a good sign for my future career. To conclude, my career goal is to become a child psychologist in 3 years. To achieve this, I require the three skills I labored to develop at Widad Center during my internship. Patience would help me to make right judgment after a careful observation. Enhanced communication skills would help me to use the right methods to convey or receive information from my clients, whereas confidence would help me to be ready for life experiences and challenges. To achieve this, I will strive to master nonverbal communication skills by adopting proper posture and communicating clearly and confidently. I will always seek for honest feedback to make improvements accordingly. Secondly, to develop patience, I will always accept my current circumstances, even if it's unpleasant. Practice good listening techniques to understand situations before giving a response if necessary. To develop confidence in handling challenging situations, I will always plan and make proper preparations when faced with a difficult task. Ultimately, I am still in the journey to maximum enhancement of these skills, and I cannot wait to attain my maximum potential. Thank you for watching.